Scholars have noticed this phenomenon of ancient people that wanted to make a name, and they would build, it's called the ziggurat, a tower that looks like a ladder, steps that going up. Now, what the scholars are saying is they didn't expect to go up. They expected somebody to come down.
Now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. So he came to a certain place.
Now listen, wait a minute. He came to a certain
Place.
Now this is amazing because place, that name Makom, place in Hebrew Makom, the rabbi said Kom is the name of God. If they don't want to use the word of the name of God in vain, they would say HaMakom, the place. He dreams, and behold, now remember the Tower of Babylon, the ziggurat. How does the ziggurat look? Like a stairway to heaven?
Yeah.
What does Jacob see in his dream?
And behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it.
Jump to John chapter 1.
And he said to him, Most assuredly I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man.
The ladder, this ladder is not a place.
It's a person.
Somebody. Yeah, it's not somewhere. It's somebody. It's a person.
It's like God is divinely inspiring them, even in the midst of their rebellion. They're still proclaiming
so close
Him.
and yet so far, right?
And yet so far away.
You're listening to Pod for Israel. For more information, go to oneforisrael.org.
I want to welcome you to another episode of Pod for Israel, and we have with us again Dr. Golan Broshi. We're going to be digging further into the Messiah and the Torah, which there's a lot to talk about, right, Golan? A lot to see of the Messiah. It's not a new concept that came 2,000 years ago, but since the beginning of time, the Messiah has been prophesied. God planned this out, and we're going to see Him in the Torah in places that you might not have seen before. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah, with God's grace. So the last chapter we did in the Messiah and the Torah, we focused on the first chapters of Genesis. Now, of course, we have to remember we are talking about the book of Moses, the Torah, the book of Moses. So there was no
Right.
Genesis, there were no chapters, but it was the beginning of the book of Moses, the beginning of Genesis, the first chapters with Cain and Abel. Now, when Adam and Eve sinned, Eve got a promise for a promised seed, a seed that would come through a woman and would bring rest, restoration, peace, salvation to the world. And from there on, there was, you can say, a quest for the seed, for the promised seed. And I think even when Cain was born, Eve might have thought, wow, that maybe that's the promise. Maybe this is who God promised that would deliver us from Satan, that would that bruise his, smash his head. Maybe this is it. And it wasn't Cain, and it wasn't even Abel, although he was a prototype of the Messiah. And it wasn't Seth, although it came through the lineage of Seth. But it wasn't it. But from there on, when God chose Abel instead of Cain, when He then chose Seth, we have a pattern throughout Genesis of God choosing because He wants to bring forth this promised seed.
Right.
So we see people are born, and God is picking one of them.
Mm-hmm.
God is picking one of them, and of course, it's in accordance with what Paul says in Galatians 16. We're not going to read it, but it's a singular seed that comes from Abram. It's what God is looking for, that promised seed. He's going to bring one seed, and we're going to see today who the Messiah is going to come from in the end.
Right.
You know, the movie is it's going to be a happy ending, but we're going to get there. So listen. So then Noah is born, and his father is naming him Noah because Noach in Hebrew is rest, rest, peace, restoration. Yeah. And his father really thought, again, this is the tradition they had from Eve, that they're expecting a seed to bring this rest. So Noah's father probably thought this is it, and he even called him Noah because he might bring rest. He might bring us rest at last. But it doesn't happen. Again, it doesn't happen because the first thing that Noah did after he went off the ark is plant a vineyard and get drunk.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Another mess, right?
Yeah, with his son.
Right. But God chooses a son. Noah has 3 sons.
Right.
Now, God chooses, of course, like Cain and Abel. He chooses. He's going to choose one. He chooses, how do you call his name in Hebrew? The Shem.
Yeah.
Shem, you say in English Shem, because Noah had 3 sons, and he chooses Shem.
Right.
That's why actually Arabic and Hebrew are called languages Shemiot, Safot Shemiot, because they're descended from Shem.
Right.
Yeah? So God chooses Shem, but then in chapter 11, Genesis chapter 11, we hear of a really familiar story, but this story echoes to the rest of Genesis. And if you can just read the first verse, and everybody would know what story are we talking about. It's Genesis 11. It's just after the flood. The flood is over. All the people are together, and listen what they're choosing to do. Genesis 11, just verse 1.
Genesis 11. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there, and they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad.
Let us make a name to ourselves. So now here's the question. Remember, this is after the flood.
Right.
Now there in the valley, it says I think in verse 1 that they went east. Does it say in verse 1 or 2?
Yeah.
And they found what's the word in
a plain.
A plain in Hebrew. A plain is not a mountain, right?
Right.
What is a plain?
It's a valley.
It's like a valley. Now what's the danger? Listen, this is just after the flood. What's the danger in their mind? If it's going to rain, what's going to happen on the plain?
Yeah,
it's going to be
drowned, yeah.
Of course. So if you want to build, what are you going to do?
You're going to build a tower.
You're going to build up, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to spread.
Yeah.
Why spread? If you're not spreading horizontally, you say?
Yeah.
You're spreading, you want to go up.
Right.
But they're saying we're going to build a tower and make ourselves a name. A name. Now, this is incredible because, in the ancient world, scholars have noticed this phenomenon of ancient people that wanted to make a name, and they would build, the scholars would call it ziggurat. It's called a ziggurat, a tower that looks like a ladder. It looks like it's steps. It's a tower that looks like a steps that going up.
Right.
Now, what the scholars are saying is they didn't expect to go up. They expected somebody to come down from the steps. They expected somebody to go down. The gods.
Right.
They expected God to come down. And if you read the next verse, is it 6 or 5? What happens after they build this tower?
But the Lord came down to see this.
Wait a minute. They build the tower, this tower that the scholars are calling, they found a lot of towers like this in the ancient ziggurat. It's called ziggurat.
Yeah,
this
even
tower.
South America, all over the place, yeah.
And God is coming down. So from now in the it works, right? This is what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
This is what the God is coming down.
Not sure if they saw him, but we'll see. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language.
But listen, wait. Now stop it.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to make it. The tower wasn't, the purpose of the tower is not to live, because they built a city and the tower, right? So it's not like a skyscraper that people live in.
Apartments.
It's a tower that it's like a stairs, like a ladder that goes up. Yeah, that goes up to the skies, to the heavens, and they expect God to come down, and that's what He does.
But to do it in their own flesh.
Exactly. Wait. Until now, everything goes according to the plan, right?
Yeah.
They expected God to come down, and He comes down, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens?
So the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now nothing they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down there and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the earth.
So it seems like everything is going according to the plan. God is coming down, but he doesn't like what he sees.
Yeah, it's their plan. Because what was God's plan? God said, fill the earth and subdue it.
Yeah.
And they said, let's come together and...
Yeah. And they wanted their name. They wanted a good reputation. They wanted to make a name. But it wasn't according to God's plan. So he comes and he destroys it.
Well,
but listen,
too, it was about their name, not God's name.
Exactly.
I mean, how many times even as believers, are we searching out for our own name, or are we looking to build God's name?
Now, how did God call this city?
Babel.
Babel. Now, remember Babel. Remember the letter going up. And just remember it, and we'll go forward with the podcast. But remember this: we're gonna return to this. So remember, God is choosing a seed. He's choosing from people. So
right.
Abram has two brothers. God chooses Abram. Now Abram has two sons. Initially, God chooses Isaac. Again, we're looking for that person that would bring the seed. That from this seed the Messiah would come. So God chooses Isaac. Now Isaac has two sons, actually twins, and God chooses one. Who does he choose?
The younger, actually.
The younger, Jacob. God chooses Jacob. And then something really interesting happens in Genesis 28. And you can start reading from verse 10.
Yeah. Now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night.
Wait a minute. He came to a certain, what does it say?
Place.
Now, this is amazing because place, that name, Makom, place in Hebrew, Makom, the rabbis say every time you see HaMakom, Makom is the name of God. In their mind, Makom, if they don't want to use the word of the name of God in vain, they would say HaMakom, the place. And the rabbis would know everybody means God. So he's
Why would
hitting,
they use that?
Now it says Vayifga b'makom. He hit the place. He hit this place, Jacob. And they say Vayifga b'makom. He encountered God. Now wait a minute. Let's see why what do the rabbis mean? So he comes to this place, and what happens next?
He stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he laid down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed, and behold.
He dreams, and behold. Now remember the Tower of Babylon, the ziggurat. How does the ziggurat look? Like a stairway to heaven?
Yeah.
What does Jacob see in his dream?
And behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it.
So in contrast to what the people did in the Tower of Babylon, Jacob doesn't build anything, but he dreams. God shows him this ladder, the ladder that goes up, and then you can keep reading. He wakes up, and what happens?
So the angels of God were ascending and descending on it, and behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and your descendants. Also, your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west, the east, the north, and the south. And in you and in your seed, all the families of the earth shall be blessed.
And this is exactly what God told Abram. By your seed, Jacob, by your seed. So we know it's not Jacob. It's going to be a seed that would come from Jacob. But all the families of the earth would be blessed by his seed. Now, skip a little bit when he wakes up. When Jacob wakes up, what happens?
Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.
Now, this is incredible, because that was really the gate of heaven when God met him. Now, the gate of heaven is a really important phrase. Why? Because scholars are saying that Babylon, the city, How do you call that city in English?
Babel.
Babel in Akkadian, in the language of Akkadian, ancient Hebrew, the meaning of Bavel, is the gate of heaven. The meaning of Bavel is the gate of heaven. So remember.
See, because we think typically in the Western world, we hear Babel and it's like to babble on, to not be understood, to be
in Akkadian,
confused.
the ancient Hebrew, Akkadian, what Hebrew sprang out of, the name Babel means the gate of heaven.
Wow.
So they thought after they built the tower, they're building this tower, a ladder, and they're thinking this is the gate of heaven. It's here, and God is saying no.
This is our own gate of heaven for our name.
Yeah. God is saying no. With Jacob, he said no.
But see this too.
The gate of heaven is here in Israel.
Right.
This is the gate of heaven. This is the letter. This is the right ziggurat. This is with Jacob. That's the right letter. And Jacob's, this is the gate of heaven. In contrast to their gate of heaven, no, this is the gate of heaven.
Because you know what? Their gate of heaven was built for their name. Now, what does God do at the top of that gate? At the top of this gate, he proclaims his name.
Exactly.
So they proclaim their name as the way to heaven. He's saying, no, my name is the gate to heaven. That's beautiful.
Now we go back to that. Remember what the rabbis say about the place? The place is not a name of a place. It's a name of
God.
Of God. Now jump to John chapter 1. Yeah, John 1, 46.
And Nathanael said to him, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, come and see. Yeshua saw Nathanael coming towards him and said to him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit.
Mm-hmm.
And Nathanael said, how do you know me? Yeshua answered and said to him, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you.
Yeah.
Nathanael answered and said to him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Yeshua answered and said to him, because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these.
What are you going to see?
And he said to him, most assuredly I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man.
This letter is not a place. This letter ends, the way to heaven, the gate for heaven, the gate to God is not a place.
It's a person.
Somebody. Yeah, it's not somewhere. It's somebody. It's a person. This is Yeshua the Messiah.
It's amazing.
So the rabbis, they got a little bit of that. They said this place is God.
It's not just a place, because it's such the place is such a general term, but they're looking to this point of Jacob's vision and saying the place is not just a place, the place is God himself, and then here Yeshua is proclaiming himself as the ladder.
He's the ladder. He's the gate to heaven.
But why would the rabbis say that? It's like as I've dug deeper and deeper in my life into the rabbinic Judaism and stuff, you see the bad that we kind of went over in our first series, but then you also see it's like God is divinely inspiring them, even in the midst of their rebellion. They're still proclaiming
so close
Him,
and yet so far, right?
And yet so far away. Yeah, wow.
So this is Yeshua is the gate to heaven. Yeshua is this ladder. Yeah. Yeshua is that place. He's it. But we have Houston. We have a problem. You say in America,
Houston, we have a problem. Yeah.
because Jacob doesn't have only 2 sons to choose from.
Right.
Jacob has a dozen. So now from 12 tribes, who is God? God is looking for a seed.
Right.
One seed. Now Jacob has 12 sons. Who is it gonna be? And by the end of Genesis, the focus is on one person. I think 9 or 10 chapters are focusing on one.
And as you look through it, you see it was kind of slim pickings. And as we read through it, it reads like a soap opera. These guys, his sons were, he had a lot of problems.
Yeah, but one son above them rises up, and he's almost perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's betrayed. They want to murder him. He saves them, and one son.
And he's like a perfect foreshadowing of Yeshua himself.
And remember, the rabbis were expecting two messiahs. One of them was the Messiah son of Joseph.
Yeah.
So even the rabbi, so Joseph is really a good candidate.
Yeah.
You know, if you're reading from Genesis 37, you're thinking, wow, this is Joseph. The seed is going to come. It's either Joseph or the seed is going to come from Joseph.
Right.
Because Joseph, but then something incredible happens because God is saying not so fast.
Right.
Joseph is almost perfect, but it doesn't have to be Joseph. And I think if you read from it's Genesis 37, verse 26 and 27. So
Right.
Genesis 37. Remember, the whole focus is Joseph. Joseph is the hero of the plot, and then we have a hint for something else. Genesis 37, 26, 27.
Yeah. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites.
So
Let us not have our hand upon him, for he's our brother in our flesh." And his brothers listened.
he's our brother in our flesh, and who says it? Not Reuben, not the oldest.
Well, Reuben, I mean, you
Reuben
would
told them,
say
"Don't-"
Reuben was even better because he was plotting to come and save him later. He was still afraid of his brothers to speak out,
But Reuben is then forgotten. He's not going to appear anymore.
yeah.
But now somebody else pops up.
Judah pops
Judah.
up.
Now, why
But
Judah?
I'll even say here,
Yeah.
it wasn't purely altruistic here. I mean, Judah's whole thing was still pretty nefarious. He was still a knucklehead. He was still
Moses,
wicked in what he was saying to
But
do.
Moses is telling us, you're thinking about Joseph. The seed is going to come from Joseph, Messiah son of Joseph. Wait a minute. Judah. Something peculiar about Judah. His name is appearing. Okay, first time. But it doesn't end. Because what happens in the beginning of 38, chapter 38, Genesis 38, we hear somebody is cutting off the story of Joseph to tell us what?
So it says in 38:29.
No, just chapter 38, 1.
38:1. Okay. And it came to pass at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain
So wait a minute.
Adulamite, whose name was Hira.
Yeah, so wait. So we're talking about Joseph because can you read the last verse of chapter 37? The last verse. I think it's 36.
Okay.
Genesis 37.
So it says, "Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and a captain."
Yeah. No,
of the guard.
we want to keep reading what's going on with Joseph, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
It goes back to
again. Going back to Judah. What's the focus about Judah? What's so interesting about Judah? What you're gonna give us? You're gonna give us a whole chapter about Judah now? We want to hear what happens to Joseph.
And let's just say this chapter 38 is pretty
Pretty
scandalous.
intense, pretty intense.
Scandalous. I mean, this is soap opera stuff right
Yeah,
here.
but let's just skip to the end of chapter 38 and see what happens because Judah is sleeping with Tamar,
Yeah.
and she has twins.
Well, I mean, before that, he has some sons of some women who are, questionable and so forth, and then he does questionable things, and he gives an oath. He doesn't fulfill his oath. We go through. I mean, kind of just to summarize. There's a lot of dirty done.
A lot of bad stuff, but in the end, Tamar is delivering babies. Now, what happens from verse 27? I think it's 27.
So, from 27, "Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that behold, twins were in her womb."
Now listen, wait a minute. Again, we have a problem because there's twins. But if we want the Messiah now, the seed to come from Judah, we have to choose one. But again,
we have a choice.
We have twins. So again, God has to choose again. So keep reading. We have twins. What happens?
"And so it was when she was giving birth that one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, 'This one came out first.' Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, that his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, 'How did you break through? This breach be upon you.' Therefore his name was called Perez."
Peretz. Now, breakthrough. She said, how did you break through? Is in Hebrew, Peretz. Peretz. So that's why they call him Peretz. Peretz is to break. Paratz is to break through. Paratz. Right. To break through, to go forth. Yeah? And that's why they was naming him Peretz. And God chooses him. This son, Peretz, not his brother. How did she name his brother?
Afterwards, his brother came out who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah.
So God doesn't choose. In the end of the story, we see, in the end of the Bible, we see God doesn't choose Zerah. He chooses the Messiah to come from Peretz.
Right.
So Judah has two sons. God chooses one, Peretz, and we'll see why in a minute. But now the story, all of a sudden, we have another shift because the story ends. And if you read 39 verse 1...
And you know what? Even before we go in there, it's like, just to think about this drama of 38, is you see inside of that a broken man who's made so many mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it's like God intentionally is bringing out, this man is flawed, deeply flawed, character flawed, made so many mistakes. This is a guy who needs redemption.
He thinks he sleeps with a harlot.
He thought he was sleeping with a harlot. Yeah. Tamar had, because he was breaking his oath, Tamar, and here's the beauty of it, God really exalts the women here. Because here's Tamar's faith, his lack of faith, his lack of oath keeping.
It's an initiative, right?
But she saw something here. She saw something of, it's kind of like that she saw that it was worth something, that the seed would continue forward, and to be a part of this family was valuable to her. And maybe she believed in the God of Abraham that pushed her this way to say, no, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that.
But the story of Judah and Tamar is breaking off.
Right.
It's over. And then 39, we're going back. Read just verse 1, 39:1.
Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt.
So we're coming back to Joseph.
Yeah.
We're quitting Judah. Judah is laid aside. And now, what's interesting, if you read 37, the last verse of chapter 37, and then the first verse of 39, it's like it never ended. The story never ended.
Yeah.
Look, just try this exercise. Read the last verse of 37, and then the first verse of 39.
You mean of 38?
Okay. No, the first verse of 39. The first of 39
okay,
of Joseph.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard.
Yeah, and then 39:1.
Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, and Egyptian.
Exactly. So it's
picked right up.
We're just picking it up, picking the story as if Judah never existed. Okay, back to Joseph, back to the main character.
What a contrasting figure too, because here Joseph, being a slave, being a victim of this crime, really perpetrated by Judah, is a better man in every way.
And if you read 39, better man, you see how better. 39:3, what does it say? 39
verse 3. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all
before.
he did.
So read verse 2, verse 2.
The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
The Lord was, it never says this about Judah.
But then also look at what he did with Potiphar's wife.
He resisted
temptation.
Incredible.
Here Judah's jumping into temptation, causing trouble.
Now,
here he's resisting temptation.
So if the reader is having a rivalry in his mind, who is it going to be? A Messiah son of Joseph or Messiah son of Judah, of David? Who is it going to be?
It's an easy pick.
It's an easy pick. It's got to be Joseph.
Yeah.
But Moses is saying, not so fast. Right. Wait a minute. Judah is not through yet. Because if now skip to 43, Genesis 43. Again, this is the story of Joseph, but Genesis 43, verse 3. Just read 3.
All right. But Judah spoke to him, saying, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food.'"
So remember, they're telling Jacob, their father, that this master in Egypt, Joseph, they don't know it's Joseph, but this master wants to see their younger brother.
Yeah.
And Jacob is terrified. He doesn't want to lose another brother, let alone his youngest one. He doesn't want to send Benjamin. So what does Judah tell him? Keep reading. What does Judah tell his father?
He said, "But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.' And Israel said, 'Why do you deal so wrongfully with me, as to tell the man whether you had another brother?' But they said, 'This man asked us pointedly about ourselves and about our family, saying, Is your father still alive? Have you another brother?' And we told him according to these words. How could we have possibly known what he would say? Bring your brother down?"
Yeah.
Then Judah said to Israel, his father,
And listen carefully.
Send the boy with me,
Yes.
and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you and our little ones. I myself will be surety for him. From my hand you will require him, if I do not bring him back to you.
So Judah is putting himself to be the assurance of Benjamin. Yeah,
Right.
He's gonna be his ransom. Yeah, it says in Hebrew you can say it's like Judah is the ransom. He's like the guaranteed for the safety of Benjamin. He's putting himself, but still, the main character of the story is still Joseph, because they're going with Benjamin to Joseph, and then when Benjamin comes, Joseph sees him, and then he heeds the cup. Remember his cup in Benjamin's bag, right? And the guards of Joseph are finding this cup, and they're bringing Benjamin. They're bringing the brothers, and they're saying, "How could you steal from us? How could you steal the cup of Joseph after all he did for you?"
Right.
And the brothers are shocked. We didn't do anything. And Benjamin is saying, "I didn't do it."
Yeah.
But Joseph said, No. You go. But we found the cup in Benjamin. He's going to be in prison. I'm going to take
Right.
him. He's not going back to Israel. Benjamin is staying here in prison. And this is this is amazing. Brace yourself, because this is the vocal point. This is it. In Genesis 44:16. Read Genesis 44:16.
Then Judah said, What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak, or how shall we clear ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Here we are, my Lord's slaves, both we and he also with whom the cup is found.
Again, remember, Joseph is the hero of the plot. Yeah, he's the main figure. But again, Judah seems to pop up, to break through, like Judah's name, Judah's son name, Peretz. Remember Peretz breaking through? It's like Judah is always breaking through in this plot. What's going on with Judah?
You can see here he's a broken man.
And then the main thing, listen, remember that God is looking to bring forth a seed by which the Messiah comes, and there's a competition: Messiah son of Joseph or Messiah son of Judah, son of David. Who is he going to be, Joseph or Judah? And then Judah is telling. You can read verse
Joseph
19.
said, But he said, Far be it from me that I should do so. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he shall be my slave, and you shall go in peace to your father.
And then verse 18.
Then Judah came near to him and said, O my lord, please let your servant speak a word in my lord's hearing, and do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are even like Pharaoh. My lord asked his servants, saying, Have you a father or brother? And we said...
And you can skip because he's giving a speech, but the end of the speech, this is what we want. Is it verse 30, 31, even 32?
Okay. For your servant became surety for the lad to my father, saying, If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father forever.
And now, what is Judah saying now?
Now, therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the lad as a slave to my lord, and let the lad go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father if the lad is not with me?
So Judah, in
Lest
other words,
perhaps I see the evil that would come upon my
so
father.
in other words, Judah says to Joseph, take me. Let the kid go. Let the kid go. Take me instead.
Yeah.
And when Joseph when Joseph hears this,
he could restrain himself no more.
He cried like a baby.
Yeah.
He cries like a baby because he sees Judah repented.
Yeah.
His brothers repented. But not only that, this was the breaking point, because this is exactly what God is looking for. Somebody that is willing to give his life for his brother. What did Yeshua say? What's the greatest love of all?
That one would lay down his life for his friend.
So when Joseph hears this, it's like this game over. Joseph said, God, give it to Judah. Gives the Messiah son of Judah. This is, I can't compete with that. I might be perfect. Joseph I'm paraphrasing. I might be perfect. But what Judah did here, this is the spirit of the Messiah.
Yeah.
Take him. Let him go. Take me. Let the boy go. Let him go.
Yeah.
This is what the Messiah did to us.
Right.
Because he's saying, how can I go to my father without him? How can I go back to my father? You can imagine Yeshua is saying that. How can I go back to my father without saving them? Leaving them hostage? It's like saying, take me. Let them go. And when we read that, we know now. We know. We thought it was Joseph. We thought it's going to be Messiah, son of Joseph. But I'm sorry. And then in Genesis 49, and this is the end. This is when Jacob is going to bless. He's going to bless the brothers. And now the tension is in his highest. Who is going to get the blessing for the Messiah? Which brother the Messiah is going to come forth? And when he reaches Judah, when Jacob is going to bless Judah, we hear in verse 9. So it's Genesis 49.
Starting in verse
9.
8, he says, Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise.
Yeah.
Your hands shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He bows down. He lies like a lion. As a lion, who shall rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes.
Shiloh, and the rabbis say Shiloh is the name of the Messiah.
Yeah,
so
and to him shall be the obedience of the people.
Exactly. So the promised seed is going to come from Judah.
Right.
We thought it's going to be Joseph because the plot was Joseph was the hero. He was the star.
Yeah.
But no, because of that act of Judah, this self-sacrificing himself, this shifted the whole thing. And it's although Joseph is the chosen one, almost the Messiah is going to come from Judah. And we're going to end this podcast with, and this is even more incredible, because in Ezekiel, this is exile. Everything is going bad. Everything is going down, and God is still looking. Ezekiel 22, verse 30. Ezekiel 22, verse 30.
It says, So I sought for a man among them who would make a wall and stand in the gap before me on behalf of the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found no one.
God is still looking for somebody to stand in the gap, and there's no one. But here's the hint. There is someone, and there's a hint you can see only in Hebrew. You said the gap, right?
Right.
But in Hebrew, it's peretz. In the peretz. So does peretz, the name peretz, remind you something?
Yeah, just from earlier.
Right.
Genealogy of
Judah's son, Peretz, which from Peretz, the Messiah Yeshua would come. Right? Because we read in the end of Ruth, the end of the book of Ruth, that David came through Peretz.
Right.
David came through Peretz, through Judah and through Peretz. So Ezekiel God is saying, I'm looking for somebody to stand in the Peretz, in the gap.
It's amazing.
And now you wonder, who is it gonna be? And Ezekiel himself is giving the answer in Ezekiel 37, verse 24.
All right. David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Then they shall dwell in the land which I have given to Jacob my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell there, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will establish them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in their midst forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Indeed, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. The nations also will know that I, the Lord, sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary is in their midst forevermore.
So listen, God is looking for somebody to stand in the gap, in the Peretz, for somebody to stand on behalf of the people, like Judah. Remember, like Judah was standing on behalf of Benjamin. God is looking for somebody to stand in the Peretz, in the breakthrough, in the gap. And this man is going to be a descendant of Peretz. Is going to be the Messiah, Yeshua. Now, what's interesting, remember, the rabbis were thinking, is it the Messiah son of Joseph, the Messiah son of David, maybe both? What's interesting is that Yeshua himself is both the Messiah son of Joseph, because what was the Yeshua's adopted father name? What was the name of the father of Yeshua?
Joseph.
Joseph. So Yeshua was called, he's even called in the New Testament, the son, this is the son of Joseph.
Yeah.
So Yeshua is both the son of Joseph and the son of David.
beautiful.
It's not two Messiahs. It's two comings.
Exactly.
It's one Messiah. Messiah, son of Joseph, and Messiah, son of David are the same one. He's the son of Joseph, and he's perfect, and he's willing to stand in the gap for his brothers. And this is what Yeshua did for you, for me, and for the rest of the world. He's standing in the gap.
And you look at it too. And I hope this encourages you to see that God used the most broken of them, the most flawed, to bring forth the Messiah himself.
Forth, Peretz, right? Bring forth.
To Peretz, the Messiah. Because you look at Judah's story, and God intentionally didn't whitewash his character, because it's good for us to see that he struggled, he failed, but then he was redeemed. And there's redemption for all of us if we would come to him in repentance.
So just saying, remember, so that the Messiah, son of Joseph and son of David, he's the gate to heaven. He's the man who stands in the gap. He's the mediator between us and between God. He's the only letter. Is the only way to heaven.
And as I think about this too, and I think about Babel and them making a name for them, let us make a name for ourselves
but there's only
to
one
get
name.
to heaven.
Remember, there's only one name.
And the contrast of our name to get to heaven, and here God proclaiming his name at that ladder, at the place being God.
And in Acts, Peter told him there's no other name. There's
no
only
other
one name.
And you even think about, as we read through Paul's epistle, and as he talks about all his qualifications, all the good things that he had done, and then it's like rubbish, it's trash compared to Yeshua. And then you have as well Joseph contrasted with Judah. And no man can boast. Joseph, it's like he lived such a good life. And I hope I can live a life like Joseph, of resistant to sin and integrity. But at the same time, God intentionally chose the broken things, the broken people, to bring forth the Messiah. And I think if we look at it today, he even chooses us broken vessels today to bring his Messiah to those around the world.
The gospel.
I'm broken. I don't know about you. I'm deeply flawed. And it's amazing. We proclaim his name first. His name is the only name that matters. And to make his name famous above all.
Amen.
So pray that you're encouraged, that you would just be encouraged of God's redemption. And if you've fallen, if you've failed, if you ever think, man, I just can't make it, look at the patriarchs and look at how God brought redemption through them.
Amen.
And may that encourage you and give you faith today to make his name famous in Yeshua's name. Amen.